Hello, I am Nick, and I am going to be the host. This is a new podcast that I'm going to try to upstart called WormFood. Worms, they create the dirt of the earth, and I think that it would be very fun to step back for a moment and contemplate not just life, but the world and how we perceive it. So, first off, like I said, I am Nick, and I am a college dropout. I didn't drop out in the middle of a semester, but I just attended college and never went back. No degree, nothing beneficial except a new perspective on parts of life. This podcast is to help me come to terms with what I believe in. I grew up in a very non religious household. I do identify as Christian, but through this podcast, things may change. I've always been fascinated with the Greek mythos, paganism, and Buddhism. I don't think Buddhism is necessarily a religion, but I do see it as a good philosophy. Now, philosophy may be a big integral part about it, but it's not just that. I want to reach out and be able to sit down and have conversations with a lot of different people. So, for me, let's get to know each other a little bit more intimately. I'm a 20-year-old who doesn't have much at the moment. Back last year in September, I lost my car. Transmission blew up in North Carolina, and I have been without a car since. I live with my girlfriend and my brother. I love them to death, but some days it just feels a little extra stressful. Both my parents are still alive. I have a older brother, younger sister, and this is just a message between me and all of you who may be listening. I do have a couple goals for this year. I want to be able to get a new car. This isn't going to be a full-time job. I don't want this podcast to be a full-time job. I want it to be just sharing perspectives. But I want to be able to get a new car this year. And I know it's going to sound like a lot, but at the same time, it's really not a lot. I want to be able to try to save up $10,000. Yes, it's a lot, and I could do a lot with that money. But being 20, it's also super hard and super stressful right now. This podcast, I do want to be able to reach out and meet other people. I have some big names that I'll talk about later. Some dream goals to be able to meet. I want to be able to make an hour-long video each time. And as of right now, I just want it to be a recap of the previous month. Over here, you can see the WormFood Podcast Discord symbol up there. Hopefully, these brackets will start filling up and we might be able to develop a strong community. Who knows? I may randomly pick people to be able to join in on the podcast eventually. Now, the format of this podcast should be flowing like best part, worst part. I am inspired by Jack Manifold and Tommy in it and their podcast. They do worst part. Every month they discuss what has went wrong and horrible and the worst of every month. Or worst of every week is how they do it. I don't want to necessarily be that pessimistic on the outlook. So I'm wanting to do the best part of the month and worst part of the month for everyone. Now, philosophies that I have been wanting to look into and read up on are going to be the main focus of the podcast because it's going to be very nice and very enlightening for us to be able to learn and study. But there's only so much I can do given a week to a month. I don't have that much time. I do have a full-time job besides trying to make podcasts. I'm not going to lie, I don't have a professor's in philosophy. I don't have any degree. But I was really inspired by the philosophy class that I took up at my local college. So, a couple of the philosophies that I've been looking at, like I said, Buddhism. But I don't know much about the individual sects of it. So, you have like Tibetan Buddhism versus a Hindu Buddhist mix, and it is a wide variety. But those are living philosophies and living religions currently. So I'm also going to be doing my own bit of research, like on Niehaus. He is one that had developed the most famous quote of "God is dead and we have killed him." It is a dark and ugly philosophy, but it is something that we can all learn from. And like I said, I have a very baseline knowledge of it. If I misspoke or misrepresented it, I do deeply apologize. Now, I have a couple of guest speakers that would be following under this. So it would be best part, worst part for the first one, philosophy for the second topic, and then it would become a Q&A with a guest speaker. And hopefully it could shed some light on some people that maybe not all of us know. Maybe it's just a couple of close friends and family starting off. Maybe it could be one of you. If I could develop this connection with the community, it would be absolutely amazing and a dream goal to be able to have such a strong community where I can record some of my most private thoughts and my opinions on what's happening out to the rest of you. And then, after the Q&A with the guest speaker, one of the things that I think we need to do more of is appreciation. I think a dedicated section on appreciations would be absolutely wonderful. Because now, especially now that we are deep in the midst of a very chaotic world with a lot of uncertainties, sometimes just being able to appreciate some of the small things around you and some of the people around you, it would be beneficial. So, for February, the best part and the worst part. This month, I have seriously started to struggle with a bit of mental health issues. It's minor depression, undiagnosed, unfortunately. I'm not diagnosing myself. It's just a very difficult time. Uh, there's good news though. Next 2 weeks, I'll be starting up a course to help me advance in my career, so it's nothing too drastic. And prefacing this video, I should have done some research on a philosophy to speak of, but I forgot to. I was more so too worried about getting this started up. Then, no guest speaker either. It would be fairly nice to eventually be able to get with multiple people and have a sit down tableside discussion. And as you guys can see, I'm using Discord for it, just so that you guys can know who's talking. This isn't going to be super pretty, especially right now at the start of this. And I have a couple of guests in mind already for a dream goal. Right now, Jack Manifold and Tommy Innit, they are a huge inspiration, and they have been absolutely wonderful to just watch. I love the comedy. Tommy Innit has comedy shows going out all the time now because he is super, super good at what he's doing. Yes, their podcast is Shut Up, I'm Talking. I forgot the name of it, but they have this wonderful, wonderful dynamic with each other. It is one of the most fun sit down talk shows there is. Maybe that's why people like podcasts as much as it is. It's a sit down talk show. It's almost like radio and almost like TV. But you can pause it at any point in time. You go, shut up, I'm talking. Sorry, I stole that from them too. Not gonna do it again. After that, Jorge, the creator of Epic the Musical. He has such a vibrant community, and I love the excitedness that they bring forward. It would be absolutely amazing to be able to get him on this podcast, sit down and have a conversation with him, and hear his story. He is very accepting and happy with his community, and it is so nice being able to see it. After that, I am a very large nerd being able to talk to Matthew Mercer or Travis Scott William. Travis William, not Scott William, but Travis William, so that I could meet some people from Critical Role, hear their stories, be able to get not just information for myself, but information for everyone. It would be amazing. Because they have spoke and posted on their stories, but you don't get necessarily the nitty gritty or how difficult it is for that work to be. On top of that, I'm a big card game nerd. I love Magic the Gathering. Being able to sit down with Jimmy or Josh from the Command Nights onto this podcast, and maybe even the professor, if he would be so willing to work with me, just so that I could learn more about what got them into what they're doing and maybe see their outlooks on life. It would be wonderful. And WormFood, this isn't going to be a career. It's not ever going to be my main job. I'm not going to try to make it that way. But I would be very, very thankful if you guys could join me along for the ride. I am very, very appreciative of my girlfriend. Me and her have talked this over. She thinks that it might be good for me. I love her to death. I am also very, very appreciative of this next chapter in my life. I turned 21 in 9 days. It's weird being able to say that. Being able to go out and drink in public and have a good time with friends. This is going to be absolutely different. The next episode, which hopefully will be longer than 17 to 20 minutes, will be coming out March 30th. And I will have done more research, or March 31st, excuse me. I will have done research on some philosophies instead of some light reading and video watching. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This can be a very, very beautiful beginning for the WormFood podcast. Thank you. I appreciate you all. Good night.